Because the thing is as the days wear on, she's like in this basement, you're getting tired, you're not like, you're out of your routine, panic starts to set in. And so at some point she's kind of like, she tries to give them a recording and she does it in her own, in English. And they're just like, that's not gonna work. And he's like, you're playing us for fools or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like,
say it in Andromedan.
Right. Say it in your alien language. And she's like, okay, let's just back up a bit. Like, what do you guys actually want? Do you want money? Is this like some weird like sex thing or whatever? And it's almost like that would be a better answer for her if they had agreed to one of those instead of saying, we genuinely believe you're an alien.
Yep.
So they stick to that hard.
Which is funny too, because as soon as she asks that, he's like, no, we sterilized ourselves.
Yeah. She's just like,
we did chemical castration, Kay. We are committed. Like,
she's just like, oh no, they're crazy.
Nuts.
This is really what I'm. And then it's like, then it enters this wild card, right? Because you don't know what they're gonna do if they're that crazy. Like, there's a scene later where he's like giving her shock treatment. I can't remember what his initial reasoning was to do that. But then as they're going through, he's like, I really hate to do this. I'm genuinely a nice guy, but we have to do this.
I think he thinks that he's going to torture it out of her. He's like, hey, I've got to resort to other methods because you're not going to cooperate.
Okay.
So here we go.
Something like that. So he's giving her shock treatment. It's like, it's intense. And then he's just like watching and his face is like, suddenly he's getting this revelation.
Yeah.
And so he keeps cranking it up. But then his cousin starts to freak out. He's like, this is too much. And then like after that scene resolves, he's like, I didn't realize you were royalty.
Yeah,
your readings were off the charts. It's like every time you think he's gonna come to a rational explanation for something,
it's completely not.
It's just like there's another answer from his conspiracy line of thinking that can explain that too.
Right.
And I think that's where the movie kind of is its real strength. It's this back and forth dialogue where it's like he's convinced that she is an alien. There's nothing she can say to change his mind.
Right.
And she's trying so hard to convince him that, that's insane, but he's already made that belief. But then conversely, at some point, she adopts the belief that, well, he's a crazy person, right? And I can just dismiss everything he says. And that's where I thought the poignancy of the film comes to light, because there's a lot of dialogue now about like corporate, especially pharmaceutical companies, having like taking positions and acting like the mass of people in society are just like, oh, well, it's like, I don't have to placate to any of you guys.
Yeah.
And then things like elections happen and then they're shocked. And it's like, there needs to be a healthy dialogue. And what the film does is it reverses the power position. So suddenly the corporate overlord that everyone's paying attention, the Elon Musk of the world, is put in a situation where they're forced to listen to some, Amazon shoe factory or packaging worker who's a total loon. And he's like, well, no, we're going to follow my perspective now. And here's all the things that I'm witnessing or whatever. And as you said, he's right. He's right about a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And there's an interesting, it's like, what do you do when you're confronted with that? Because he's also breaking the law. Like, that's still something that's still happening here as well.
Well, he drags her into a reality that she doesn't understand because she's never lived in that reality. She lives in a nice house and is paid millions, and she's CEO of the pharmaceutical company. In fact, when she ruins his mom's life, thinks that it's okay to just be like, hey, our bad, we'll pay for her treatments to get better. Right. But in reality, he's left with this mom who's crippled for however long until it changes, if it does. But he's left with uncertainty. And so that dynamic is shown there. And she's like standing with a group of suits, and he's shown holding this rope, and his mom is floating in the air on a hospital gurney.
Yeah.
And it's just a way of showing like, well, this is what he gets, and she gets to keep on going in her level of success, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so now that has turned, and he's dragged her into his basement and is showing her this reality, but also accusing her of something that she's, refusing. Then it's like, okay, well, now what do we do with this? That reality has shifted for both of them, really, but more for her than for him.
Yeah, it is a really interesting movie in that it doesn't seem to. I'm kind of not sure where I feel how it takes a side or doesn't. I think I kind of wish there's like a few things the characters do at the end that I'm not sure if I'm on board with either. For example, you find out some things, and I don't want to do all spoilers. I want there to be some mystery to the movie.
Sure.
But you find out a few things about Jesse Plemons' character later, and it felt like The Brutalist last year, where you're following Guy Pearce and he just seems one way, and you're like, okay, I have this character understood. And then he does something so heinous at the end, and you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so they do kind of one of those, and I was like, I don't know about that. That's a bit much. But then it's kind of like it's doing that everywhere. Like everything just goes balls to the walls at the end of this movie. And it's kind of ends on this note of like how, it's like humanities isn't worth saving or whatever. But in that is kind of also like just the kind of perceived truths that people have. The conspiracy theorists feel like these corporate overlords are destroying the world. And the movie's like, well, but they kind of are.
Sure.
So it's like, it's interesting because you would think that they would be after the conspiracy theorists because that's like this hated group nowadays. But then you find out that it's sort of like it takes this step back, which I was kind of surprised by, and the film was just like, well, and it kind of presents, I think, more questions than answers. But given the topic, I thought that was the right way to go.
It definitely makes you think about it afterwards, and it makes you consider what all in it that you can pull from it. And some of it is interpretive, and take that as you will. But like for instance, the way that they portray reality at the end is pretty ridiculous. And it's like, well, so is this some kind of slight against the conspiracy theorist? Or is this like what reality is in his head? And you just get a glimpse of that at the end. You're not really sure, but either way, there are some poignant messages in there, and then there are some not so poignant messages in there, and it's your job to kind of parse through it. But I think it does a really good job of presenting all of those points and all those arguments fairly.
Yeah.
And then just leaving it up to the audience.
Yeah.
Which is nice. It doesn't hold your hand.
Yeah, it's such a great, just taken at the symbolic level, like what corporate overlords are to everyday people
Not human.
Is aliens. Yeah. It is just these inhuman things. So it makes sense.
That's part of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I have too much else to say about Bugonia. I thought it was a really great movie. I really enjoyed it. The end, I think, again, it's like I have mixed feelings about that. I haven't made up my mind on it. But I mean, for what it's worth, I do think it deserves the nomination. It has poor Jesse Plemons.
I don't understand that one. That's crazy.
How do you miss?
That's crazy. I don't get it.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Do you have
Sorry,
anything
Jesse.
else to add?
Next time. No. I think it's a highly entertaining watch. It's definitely got some dark content, so keep that in mind. But there was. It's not one of those that's as impactful as some of the other films this year. Stuff like Hamnet that has an emotional resonance, or like Marty Supreme that kind of has an alternate take on that dramatic underdog story. It's not as impactful as those, but it definitely is a very artsy way of looking at some of the perceptions and the misconceptions going around within these groups, like conspiracy theorists and CEOs, pharmaceutical companies, politics in general. The disparity there is interesting to see in that way. Anyway, okay, so let's get into your take on sentimental value. Whatever it is that you wanted to say about that movie.
Yeah, so just for anyone curious who's, wanting to watch all the Oscar movies, you can get my take on sentimental value. So I went out to the theater, I grabbed it. I just went to the theater. I spent the entire day there. I watched like 4 movies or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
Well, because they had the Oscar films, and I was like, I'm going to crank out as many as I can. Whew. So I kind of had to line up showtimes. This is why I didn't see Secret Agent, by the way. It's because it was like a 3-hour movie. And I was like, that's like, I could see 2 other movies, or I could see you. So forget it. So too long.
I'd say that's probably my biggest problem this year is that I just don't have time. Like, you try and allot so much time for some of this stuff, and then you're just like, I literally don't have any more.
To be fair, you're finishing a novel, so cut yourself a little slack.
There's also that, yeah.
But yeah, so sentimental value. This is like this is European schlock. I'm sorry. So here's the thing. This is not necessarily a bad movie. The acting performances are great, especially Stellan Skarsgård. He's amazing in this. People say that it's a very lived-in performance, and it is. Like, he plays this aging film director, and he just has his view of the world, and he's not really in the mood to apologize that much for the things he has done. And so he's making this effort to reconnect with his daughters, who he'd had a contentious relationship with when they were growing up. And so now he's trying to make an effort to reconnect with them a little bit, and he wants specifically the eldest daughter, because she's an actress. He wants her to be the star in this new movie he's making, and it's going to be kind of like maybe his last movie. So that's the premise of the film. Which sounds really entertaining, like a nice, sad drama. The problem is you basically know nothing about everybody by the time the movie ends. Like what you know from scene one and versus what you know at the end is like so marginal that to me, I was just like, screw this crap. Like, I want to know something about what happened. Like, I guess, like, maybe he had an affair or something. But, like, honestly, that seemed like such small stuff in comparison with everything else they talked about in their family. So I was like, what is the issue? So it was basically like these two characters, one of whom was just so resentful and bitter towards her father. And the whole movie, I was just like, so why? Because it seemed like your mother wasn't that great either. Like she's equally to blame. Like I get he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't like a monster. Like so, and like can't we just kind of move forward? Like it's been 20, 30 years now. Like maybe we can just like.
Well, how long do you hold grudges?
Well, I'd like to think not that long.
Look, you
maybe
make a
there's
mistake.
a time.
It's lifetime. Okay, you commit to that.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
And then the movie's really badly edited. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people. Some people are like, oh, it's just so great, the editing. What it does is it cuts to black and then sits there for like 5 to 7 seconds, and then it'll resume again. And it does this like 5 or 6 times throughout the movie. That was infuriating. That was so annoying. I was like, so dramatic. So I felt like this was very pretentious. I didn't like it much at all. I thought the acting performances was great. And I thought like there's
Skarsgård. I mean, of course.
And there's individual scenes that I was like, well, that was a nice scene. That was interesting. Huh. Like that's something to really ruminate over. But it just like it had no driving force. It had no goal. It had no like this is where we're going with this story and like this is what you should take from it. It was just like, I don't know, like we just hang out with these characters for a while, but like we don't get to know them.
Like slice of life with no arc.
Yeah.
Just slice of life.
Yeah, just slice of life. Yeah, zero arc, basically.
Just get to see this bit of time. That's it.